Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Partners in Policymaking. Let's give a hand to this momentous occasion. This is a historic event. For 5 years, the Partners in Policymaking have come to the legislature on a Saturday and have been blessed and are very appreciative to have our lawmakers here with us on a Saturday. Let's give them another hand. So, what is Partners in Policymaking? It's a forward-thinking, cutting-edge disability advocacy training program that is really a leadership program for individuals who have disabilities and for parents of school-age children who have disabilities. And they're learning how to partner with policymakers for systems change. So we thank you, we welcome you, we appreciate you for being here today. I'm going to quickly go to introductions. Who do we have with us? I'll just start at the bottom. We have at the very end Larry Searcy, who came to Partners and taught us about the legislative process. He's our buddy and our friend. Let's give Larry a hand. Larry is also a parent advocate. He has been a coalition builder in Virginia and other places nationally. He's been on Capitol Hill for 20 years. We are so happy you're here and that you wanted to come and be with us today. Thank you, Larry. We have Betty Jo Shepard. She's field office staff to Senator Burr. She wanted to come back again this year to be on the panel, thought it was almost too late, was thrilled to know that she could be here today. Thank you so much for being here. We have Representative Mickey Michaud. 30 years ago, in 1982, I know, when I was just a law student at Central, I worked on his re-election campaign. Representative Michaud is from Durham County. If our Durham County residents would stand. Durham County residents would stand. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. We have also with us this afternoon Representative Jean Farmer Butterfield. She is from Wilson County and Pitt counties. She is, during the day, a valued member of the legislature, and during the night, she's an advocate for the people we love and hold dear. She actually promotes and is doing statewide trainings on guardianship and the notion that just because a person needs a guardian doesn't mean the guardian needs to take over their entire lives. Thank you so much for being here. Strasburg, we said earlier, he's staff to the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities, and that's the agency that funds Partners in Policymaking. So we appreciate you, we value you, and you're a new dad, so we appreciate your being here on a Saturday. Matthew Potter, a graduate from the North Carolina, or from Partners in Policymaking, in the class of 2011. From Iredell County, no, Forsyth, so Forsyth County. He traveled, Winston-Salem, traveled all the way down here to be on the panel. He knows your pain. He's been through the process. Thank you, Matt. And Matt brought his mother, Sarah Potter. Give us a hand. Let's see Sarah. And finally, we have Shelley Stevens with us all the way from Cherokee County. A graduate of Partners in the class of 2012. Thank you for always wanting to come back and support us and in being here today. Let's give a round to our fabulous panel. We'll press on even though we really need to wait, but we'll let her join us when she can. We're waiting for Representative Marilyn Avila from Wake County. So if we can make sure there's a seat for her, we'll press on. Okay, so I've introduced our panel. To the panel, I'd like to introduce our audience. In our audience directly in the back are other graduates of Partners in Policymaking, family members of those who are enrolled in the current class, and just people who love and adore this leadership and advocacy training program. If you all would stand, we value you, we appreciate you. Graduates of Partners, please let us see you. Let's give the graduates a hand. Would. All those in the back. Please. Without you, Partners wouldn't possible. And then we have here to my left the actual members of the 2014 class of partners who are in training to become effective disability policy change agents. Partners, we tip our hats to you today. Thank you. Okay, ground rules. So we've got some quick ground rules. First, each person will come, take the mic, and speak for 3 minutes, because that's the real world, right, representatives? That's what it takes. You need to tell your story, but do it succinctly. So 3 minutes. At the end of 3 minutes, you will hear a gong that will go off, and that's your cue to close and sit down. What does that sound?
Sound like what they do at the house.
Yeah. That's your gong. All right, so we're speaking within 3 minutes. Finally, one final caution to our panel. So legislators and field staff, you may hear in the testimony at the close certain things like, I will be calling your office, or I have scheduled a time to meet you. Be not afraid. This is mock testimony, all right? And they know that the holy grail of advocacy is finding a way to connect with legislators time and time again, to be a trusted source of help and support. So they're doing it because they're savvy. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to watch your schedule and you'll be seeing us right away. You will see us at some point in the future though, all right? So just wanted to warn you of that. Finally, after the testimony, we will welcome comments from the panel. You have in front of you pens and paper. Feel free to take notes. You also have some of the testimony of our class, and they'll point that out during their testimony. But for the most part, in the purple folders is blank paper. Please feel free to make comments. Let's see, we're going to also take pictures at the close. Where's our photographer, Robert Armstrong, if you'd let the whole group see you. We want to present plaques and do pictures. And then we want to do a big class picture, our annual event, in the foyer in front of the red carpet. If all minds are clear, we will start our presentations. Where are you going to start with Hannah? Let's give Hannah a hand, and we'll just get started.
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Hannah Hudson and I'm from New Hanover County. First off, I just want to thank all of you for being here today. Imagine you are a college student who wants to be a special education teacher. So you go through your first couple of years taking your basic college classes, and by about year 3, you finally get into your special education classes. You really enjoy these classes, but you're mostly excited because it's time for you to do field experience in an actual school. So you go to your special ed class and you walk in the door and you immediately see the chaos everywhere, and the teacher asks you, why would you want to do this job anyway? Next semester you're placed in another school. Maybe this class will be different, you think. You walk in and over half of the students are asleep and disengaged. Fast forward a year later, you're close to your graduation. You get an internship, your very own classroom. You're given a mentor teacher to observe before you take over her class, but your heart breaks when you walk in and you see the students full of potential sitting around watching movies and playing games instead of learning. Each of these 3 teachers had one thing in common. They were all lateral entry teachers. In North Carolina, it is not hard to get a teaching license in special ed. If you're already a teacher, you can take a few tests, and once you pass, you're able to be hired to teach special education. You're given a few years to take classes to keep your license, but not to get hired. This has made it easier to find teachers, but has not prepared them to teach special education. By comparing the dropout rates between students with and with disabilities, we can see that in 2013, there was a 17.6% difference for those with disabilities, making them that much more likely to drop out of school. These students have certain individual needs that are clearly stated in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and ensures that these students have the right to an appropriate and individualized education. A teacher with no training does not have the knowledge to give their students the individualized education that is required by federal law. In order to improve this program, I propose additional training prior to employment. Special education teacher candidates should be required to take an Intro to Special Education course, and it must be passed before hired to teach a special education class. By taking a course like this, lateral entry teachers will at least have an overview of different disability categories, teaching methods, and IDEA. By helping our teachers provide an appropriate education to students with disabilities, we will be taking a step in the right direction to make sure that these students are getting the individualized education that IDEA mandates and decrease student dropout rates. Thank you again for your time, and I've provided you with a white paper in the manila folder that will give you some more information on my proposal. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Katrina Hayes from Cumberland County. Thank you for your vision, your leadership, and choosing to be here today. Did you know that children in North Carolina public schools are not being treated with dignity and respect, and unreasonable physical and chemical restraint continue to happen? I'm here to speak with you today concerning North Carolina General Statute 115C-391.1, the law that permits the use of restraints and seclusions. Thank you for your enactment of the law. However, the law is being used to control, evoke fear, and for administrative convenience. According to the U.S. Department of Education, students with disabilities make up 70% of the students that are physically restrained by adults in schools. I would like to share with you how restraints and seclusions are being used improperly across the state as a first line of defense. In Mecklenburg County, student A was choked by his teacher assistant. When the student fell to the floor from difficulty breathing, his teacher assistant pinned him down, restricted his freedom, and sat on a chair. 2 weeks later, the student developed a blood clot in his eye from lack of oxygen. In Cumberland County, student B was placed in an inappropriate classroom and started biting his nails due to anxiety. When the student's mother expressed concerns, school staff informed her that the nail biting would be worked on in the classroom. Eventually, the skin on the inside of the student's hand began shedding. The remaining psychological harm has resulted in continued nail biting. Although the student, my son, has difficulty communicating and has not been able to tell me what happened, I have learned that a chemical restraint was applied to keep him from biting his nails. The reasons these horrific acts of violence can continue to happen is because there is no accountability and there's too much anonymity. I propose amendment to the current statute that requires cameras in all special education classrooms. With cameras in the classrooms, there's accountability and it eliminates anonymity. I further propose the imposition of a private right of action to parents and personal liability against school districts that receive federal and state funds that violate the statute. It is every parent's belief that schools should be a safe place for children. We need your help in keeping all of our children safe. Next week, I'll schedule a meeting with your aide so we can discuss this further. Thank you so much for your support and time. Katrina Hayes, Cumberland County, cameras in special education classrooms.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Arnold. I'm from Wake County. I am a mother and a first grade teacher in Wake County Public Schools. I am here to propose state mandated training for regular education teachers, and special education practices. I want you all to remember back, or think in the future, to when you sent your children to school. And your precious child that you had cuddled and loved, you're now sending into the world of the school system. And chances are you had full confidence that your child's teacher could give them the skills that they need to be successful in the next grade level. And if you are a parent of a typically developing student, you are probably correct. However, if you are a parent of a special needs child, the results can be very different. In 1975, Congress first enacted IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This ensured that all students, regardless of their disability, would be given a free and appropriate public education. The first two key principles of IDEA are full participation for all students and equal opportunity for all students. This means that the majority of special education students are served in regular education classrooms. 191,000 students are identified in North Carolina today with having a special need. As a teacher, I've been in the lounge and have heard other teachers, colleagues, at a loss at how to help the students in their classrooms with a disability. Not because they don't want to help, but simply because they don't have the tools. And for this very reason, I decided to take my son with a disability out of Wake County Public School System. My fear was that he would be pushed from grade to grade and that he would not reach his highest potential. I'm here to request state-mandated training for regular education teachers and special education practices to provide resources such as how to create inclusive learning environments, how to adapt curriculum to fit all needs, and how to identify the characteristics of those students in our classrooms with learning disabilities. Thank you for your time. I will be in contact with your legislative aide to set up a meeting to discuss this further. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Bramson. I'm an autistic voter and taxpayer from Asheville in Buncombe County. And I'd like to thank each of you for coming here today and perhaps reconsidering something that you may already have made up your mind about. I am autistic. I'm a member of the autistic community. I am very specifically not a person with autism. As most of you already know, referring to someone as a person with blindness, with deafness, with autism, etc., is what's called person-first language, which in 2010, with the passage of Session Law 2009-264, was officially adopted by the state of North Carolina to encompass any and every official reference to any disabled person. This entirely well-intentioned law assumes that referring to a disabled person by the name of their disability is both derogatory and demeaning. So, I must be separated from my own all-pervasive disability by a protective firewall of a preposition, Julia, a person with autism. And yet, person-first language has been wholeheartedly and vehemently rejected by the nation's 3 largest disabled communities. In 1993, the National Federation of the Blind adopted an official resolution condemning person-first language, calling it totally unacceptable and pernicious. It is the exact opposite of its purported aims because it implies shame instead of equality. The deaf community has always rejected person-first language. Big D deaf cultural community sees their own community as a source of positive identity. And now my emerging autistic community, which has over 195,000 members in the state of North Carolina alone, has rejected person-first language for exactly these reasons and chooses for itself identity-first language, which is self-accepting and engenders community. It seems very obvious to me that this is progress, this is evolution. Surely this is where we all want to go. You know, in officially freezing the language around disability, by statutory mandate, this law has politically intruded on the natural evolution of both language and... Okay. I would like to propose that you use existing structures at the North Carolina DD Council. This stakeholders engagement group is already surveying disabled communities. Why not use them to find out what actual disabled people feel about this? Thank you very much, and I'll be haunting your footsteps until this law is passed.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanya Holland. I live in Clayton in Johnston County. I want to thank each one of you for the investment that you're making in our lives today. Thank you for that. The Individuals with Disability Education Act, or IDEA, establishes a mandate for a free and appropriate public education for 191,000 North Carolinian children with disabilities. It also provides their parents the right to address grievances in court whenever school systems fall short of that mandate. However, in North Carolina's two-tiered system for prosecuting cases under IDEA robs parents for an opportunity of justice at the state level. Consider our family story. My husband and I have a son who has autism who had been enormously successful in a prior school setting. Our move to Johnston County landed us in a school where not one material portion of his IEP was implemented, leading to severe regression and eventually a homebound placement. Our journey to justice started with a hearing before an administrative law judge, an employee of a state agency, who was asked to decide if another state agency failed in its obligation to our child. An appeal of this decision landed us in the lap of the state review officer, whose job it is to determine if the judge ruled correctly. The state review officer is neither a judge himself nor is he an attorney. Rather, he is appointed by the State School Board Association. Now, this makes him an employee of the defendant, which is an obvious conflict of interest. After a 23-day due process hearing and a state review officer ruling that secured a win for the school system, we had no alternative but to move on to federal court. It is now 3 years later, and still we wait for a federal judge to rule. The school system has an insurance policy that pays for all its legal defenses should it ever be hauled into court. Not so the parent. Our legal bills now equal our mortgage, and we have had to take out loans to pay for our child's education. That money is now gone, and with it, our son's education. We struggle to make ends meet and to keep a roof over our heads. Worst of all, our son languishes educationally and socially. These are the things that keep us awake at night. I contend that in North Carolina, the ground is not level at the foot of IDEA. A system that virtually ensures legal immunity for schools provides no incentive for compliance and blatantly defies the spirit of IDEA. I propose that we eliminate the judicial system that is rigged in favor of the schools for one in which an administrative law judge's ruling is final, and that no state review officer will get to weigh in and tilt the scales of justice. At one time, Medicaid had a two-tiered system of judicial review, but legislation has since eliminated it. We need to do the same thing with due process cases. We need to require disability education of all administrative law judges in order to broaden their understanding of special education law as well. Thank you so much for hearing these concerns today.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Gertz, and I'm a Wake County resident, and I'd like to thank you all for being here today. Hearing the words, "Your son is blind," has been, at this point, one of the most challenging days of my life. With those 4 words, all of my previous hopes and dreams for my son were taken away, and we were left to find a new normal. You can imagine my surprise when at the age of 3, my son knows his letters, his numbers, his colors, and can enjoy family movie night, a special night for all. This is the gift of assistive technology. For a person without a disability, technology makes things easier possible. The North Carolina Assistive Technology Program leads this state's efforts to carry out the Federal Assistive Technology Act of 2004. In its last fiscal year, it has served over 25,000 people through demonstrations, loans, trainings, and assistance. Unfortunately, last year, the North Carolina Assistive Technology Program was cut through the Department of Human Health and Services, $98,000 in state funds, in addition to being forced to expend their fee-for-service funds down to 0 at the end of the fiscal year. These financial constraints have made it challenging to update equipment, it's restricted travel, and it's left 2 vital job vacancies, all having a direct impact on services. I am here today to ask that you restore these funds and also allow their funds to roll over at the end of the fiscal year. The benefits of assistive technology cross age and disability, improving one's quality of life, their self-esteem, while also breaking barriers. It also significantly reduces the cost of healthcare as individuals are less dependent on paid professionals. Those 4 words, uttered almost 4 years ago, have lost their feeling of hopelessness and have instead been replaced with a feeling of hope. A reminder that life is hard but so very beautiful. I am so grateful for your presence here today and hope to leave you with a message that has proven itself true in my own life. You will come to know what appears today to be a sacrifice will prove instead to be the greatest investment you will ever make. I have included a packet of valuable information that will give you a more in-depth look into the benefits of assistive technology. It's here in the black folder with the cute and also more information on the North Carolina Assistive Technology Program. And I look forward to spending more time with you and have taken the liberty of scheduling appointments through your staff to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Michael Nathaniel White. I was born and raised in Watauga County. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share my thoughts with you about continuous employment. I was born with cerebral palsy and had some difficult issues. I need some assistance, please.
I was born with cerebral palsy, but believe it or not, being born with cerebral palsy was the least of my challenges growing up. My mother taught me that if I worked hard and had respect for people, I would succeed. 2 programs that assisted me in finding and keeping work are vocational rehabilitation and Watauga Opportunities, a sheltered workshop. These 2 programs not only helped me, but tens of thousands of others like me, of other voters with disabilities too, across North Carolina. These programs have allowed us to earn an income and contribute to society by paying taxes. Because I have worked and live in the community and have friends and known in my community, I am working right now to create a book club for adolescents and adults with disabilities in Boone, where I live. I am a good neighbor, responsible citizen, and a productive worker in my community of Boone, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, I'm here today to ask for your continued support of these vital support programs. The unemployment rate for people with disabilities is over 50%. These programs, together with my employer, Joe Miller, have allowed me to participate and contribute to society. Thank you very much. Please call upon me to help you put a name and a face on this important issue. Your continued support program for people with developmental disabilities helps thousands of voting citizens with disabilities become good neighbors, responsible citizens, and productive workers in the communities all across North Carolina where we live. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Hauser, and I'm from Orange County. I want to thank you for hearing my input on an issue that has affected my life. How would you feel if your child was called retarded on a daily basis at school? The feelings of isolation and helplessness are immeasurable. This happened to me. One vivid memory I have of 6th grade is a classmate saying this to my face. The fact that I had known him since kindergarten and had been on good terms with him made his insults even harder to understand. In 2007, the North Carolina legislature showed great leadership and foresight in passing Bill 753 to encourage local school boards to promote disability awareness in our local school systems. This bill came too late to help me and some of the 191,000 school-age students with disabilities in our state, but it could be helping others if it were known about. Bill 753 is a great start. It just doesn't go far enough. This legislation needs to be amended in such a way that it incentivizes teaching disability awareness in public schools by rewarding them for doing the right thing. I propose the Ronnie Millsap Excellence in Disability Awareness Education Award Amendment. I propose that these awards be given to schools from each of the 115 school districts across North Carolina who have shown a substantial and long-term commitment to teaching disability awareness. This honor would distinguish a school community as a place where all ability levels are accepted and valued. I have scheduled a time to talk with your valuable legislative aid about this proposed amendment further. Thank you for your time and listening to what I had to say.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Landry. I am 29 years old. Thank you for giving me this great opportunity to speak to you about an issue that is near and dear to my heart. A disability that affects the estimate of 5% of the population. This disability is known as dysgraphia. It has negatively affected every aspect of my life. It has magnified my Asperger's syndrome and made it nearly impossible to express myself. Imagine what it would be like to go through every day of your life not afraid to ask for help because nobody understands what is really wrong with you. I did not learn how to write my name until I was 18 years old. This disorder has held me back and caused me great frustration both physically and mentally. Even being in special education, I was held back from all of my fellow peers went on to vocational schools because I could not finish the various tests. Exceptions were made for other disabilities because those were well known, but mine was not. Even though my father went to many IEP meetings, insisted I was given technology to help me out. To help me out with basic tasks that I could not complete just as copying or putting my thoughts on down on paper. It affected me. It got worse as I got older. The fear made worse into the workforce. Even though I was overachiever, I had a hard time. I was overachiever. I had a hard time making success and being taken seriously because of my disorder not being known. When I was my father eventually understood more and bought me the Dragon software. This made it a lot more easier for me to communicate, do my homework, write things down every aspect of my life. However, dysgraphia has affected me tremendously, caused lots of anxiety when trying to go to the bank, go to write a bill, because especially when I refused to give me exceptions due to they did not understand dysgraphia is a legitimate disability. That's why I propose a policy awareness action amendment to the North Carolina law, regardless of the grade or if the child is in special ed or regular classes. This disorder on its own is a learning disability that can cause significant problems in learning and being competitive. This disorder should be treated with respect as any other disability. This person should not be kept behind the rest of the class or not fall behind or cause major strain to achieve their full capability. Do not leave a child struggling to put their best just trying to put their thoughts on paper. Let's not leave a child behind or prevent them from racing to the top. Let this amendment, regardless of their individual education program or a professional diagnosis, get the help they deserve to achieve their goals. Thank you very much, and I will be coming to you with stats and more education on my personal story and research on America of dysgraphia. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Asia Barber. I'm from Lake County, and thank you for taking the Saturday to be here. Imagine that you're a 13-year-old, non-ambulatory girl on the second floor of your school, and the fire alarm goes off. You go to the stairwell as instructed, and you wait. And you wait. And no one ever comes. What is this with your child? How would you feel? In the state of North Carolina, there's a 7.2% of non-ambulatory students in the public school system, and 5% in the college and universities. When it came to policy, North Carolina does not have, there is no universal fire policy and procedures that can handle non-ambulatory students located on upper flooring during a fire. I have had personal experience with this. In the year 2009, at the age of 14, while at Southeast Raleigh High School, the fire alarm went off. I went to the designated stairwell and waited, and no one showed up. In 2013, at the age of 18, while in the college administrative building at William Beach University, the same action happened. I went to the stairwell. I waited, and no one showed up. Come to find out, the only reason no one ever showed up was because security never told the fire department I was up there. After the experience happened, I conducted research, and according to the City of Raleigh Fire Department, there should be a fire communication box in each stairwell, alerting them where someone is and when they need of assistance. And in that case, faculty is not allowed to assist a student because of liability issues. So today I'm proposing that legislation be required that requires all schools to have a fire communication box in each stairwell. All schools should have an emergency evacuation device tier to assist students during a fire. And also, all faculty should be trained on how to assist a non-ambulatory student during a fire evacuation without fear of termination. In closing, I have provided a white sheet that I created with the information from this testimony. And also, my contact information will be at the bottom if any other further questions do arise. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Matthew Stafford from Guilford County. I'd like to thank you all for meeting me on the anniversary of the signing of the ADA. Imagine being a victim of a violent crime. Because of a characteristic you cannot control, the prosecutor declines to prosecute your case. For many people with cognitive disabilities, this is an unfortunate reality. The Bureau of Justice Statistics says that people with disabilities are 4 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than those who don't have disabilities. For people like my mother, this makes her very worried, especially after an incident when going from class to my dorm, I was mugged by a knife-wielding man. Second to my first seizure, it was one of the scariest experiences of my life. Thankfully, the prosecutor took my case and I was able to get justice. Unfortunately, for more than the 481,000 people with cognitive disabilities, they may not be so lucky. There are thousands of others with verbal disabilities as well, and these all represent potential voters. Take, for example, my cousin Brian. He has autism and apraxia. When he was mugged by a street gang wielding knives, the prosecutor declined to take his case, even though he could point out the attackers with his iPad. He has taken several steps back from his therapy as a result, and he's now afraid to leave his own house. In another case in North Carolina, a student was abused by his teacher. She dragged him across the carpet and gave him severe burns all across his back. Even though he could point her out with his iPad, the prosecutor dropped his case at the 11th hour. This is unacceptable in a state that prides itself on law and order, and it sends a very dangerous message that it's okay to hurt people with disabilities. So here's what I'm asking. I'm asking for better training for prosecutors and judges to work with victims, witnesses, and defendants who have disabilities. I'm also asking that you give best practices classes in North Carolina law schools and make them mandatory so that when they get out of law school, they'll know how to work with people with disabilities if they have to. Disability Arrest North Carolina can probably help you with this. I will give you my contact information and we can schedule a meeting when we are able. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I really urge you to pass this legislation because disabilities can affect anyone at any time. The life you save may be your own.
Good afternoon.
My name is Lisa McNeil, and I live in Wake County. I know your time is valuable, and I thank you for sharing it with us today. I stand before you representing children with visual impairments across the state of North Carolina, both as a parent and as president of the North Carolina Association for Parents of Children with Visual Impairments. Listen to this grade 3 EOG math question. It reads, 4 students kept a chart of how many books they read in 1 month. Which picture graph shows the same information as the chart? Most likely you can't answer this question because you have not been shown the picture graph or the chart. This is what digital learning can be like for the children with visual impairments. This is because text-to-speech technology, common in our digital learning today, only provides access to the text, not to the pictures, graphics, and illustrations and videos given. This is a concern for children like my daughter Mary. Mary works very hard to access the curriculum and learn independently. She uses assistive technology like Braille, large print, and screen readers to help her see information and learn independently. Mary is now in middle school, and I'm extremely proud to say that she is a straight A honor student. This goes to show that with equal access to the curriculum, children with visual impairments, like my daughter Mary, can compete equally with their sighted classmates. General Statute 115C90 governing textbook adoption includes specific language for Braille, large print, and audio cassette access to textbooks. However, statutes governing school technology do not include this language. I and the families and professionals represented by our association request that the state's technology statutes be amended to include access for Braille, large print, and screen reading technologies, and that representatives from low-incident populations, including visual impairments, be members of technical committees that review the state's school technology plans. Thank you for helping give students with visual impairments equal access to digital learning so that they may learn independently. I've left a blue packet of information for you to review and look forward to following up on this issue impacting over 2,000 students with visual impairments in our state.
Hello, my name is Monique Staley and I live in Randolph County. We all know that time is valuable, and we would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to the concerns of the North Carolina Partners in Policymaking class of 2014. Imagine your child being unable to communicate verbally. You've never heard them call you mom or dad, ask for something to eat, or even say, hey mom, want to play a game? And the only way that this could be possible was through medically ordered treatment, and it was not covered by your health insurance. I would like to speak with you today about SB Bill 493, the Autism Insurance Coverage Bill. This bill would cover screenings and diagnoses in a variety of medically ordered therapeutic interventions shown to help improve the symptoms of autism spectrum disorder. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention states that there are currently 66,000 people living with autism in the state of North Carolina, and my son, Morgan, being one of them. 1 in 58 living in the state of North Carolina alone, and this number is continuing to increase at an annual rate of 10 to 17%. In July of 1998, my world changed forever. I was 25. I was told by a licensed neurologist that Morgan would never be able to speak, be potty trained, or live independently. And that, well, my child Morgan had autism. Through many years of comprehensive therapeutic services, some not covered by health insurance, Morgan has accomplished goals and more. Morgan has graduated high school with a 3.8 GPA and is a North Carolina scholar and will be attending a regular university in the fall. While therapies he received came at great cost and sacrifice, this has enabled him to become an independent, productive member of society. Although my son has exceeded many people's expectation, many young adults with autism are unable to find meaningful work or continue on to post-secondary opportunities. I credit my son's success to the many years of comprehensive therapeutic services he had access to. If more children had access to these therapies, diagnoses, interventions, we could improve their quality of life. The Autism Society of America has estimated that the lifetime care of people living with autism is anywhere from $3.2 to $6 million. If more children had access, once again, to early diagnosis and therapeutic treatment, we could improve their quality of life and reduce their lifelong care by 2/3. I thank you for listening to my testimony today. Please allow me to follow up in a couple of weeks to explore how I can support you in advancing the passage of this important piece of legislation. Thank you.
With being in this program, going from 18 aggressive behaviors a week to maybe 1 aggressive behavior a month. We were looking forward to her coming home. She was originally scheduled to come home in the middle of August, but I received word Monday that she will not be home until late September, until her MCO can find a psychologist who accepts Medicaid to make her a personalized behavior plan. These days, finding any healthcare provider that will accept Medicaid is near impossible because of the cuts to but as well, the custom is hard enough. But now with the cuts to Medicaid and the reduction and in the reimbursement reduction, of reimbursement rates, doctors are less likely to take on new patients. A licensed psychologist who has specialized in the treatment of autism and maladaptive behavior is one who is equipped to create a behavior plan for children like Serenity. I come to you today to ask that the Medicaid reimbursement rates for psychologists and other healthcare professionals be increased. The services that they provide are a benefit to many parents with children like Serenity who are looking to address the problems they face without having to send their children to a program like PATH. Now, my daughter is one who has greatly benefited from the high amount of structure and daily programming that PATH provided. But without a personalized behavior plan in place, she runs the risk of falling back and returning back to the destructive behavior that caused us to place her in PATH in the first place. We need to do the right thing and pay these health professionals what they have earned so that they can make their services available to those who need it. My wife and I will be in contact with you and your staff to address any questions you may have. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon. We truly appreciate your time and attention today. I am Myron Gavin, a resident of Craven County and a stakeholder in the North Carolina public school system. I am the mother of 3 children, 2 of whom have graduated from high school, and one of which is currently a middle school student with autism. I am a special education teacher. Having taught 18 years, I have seen many changes occur in the North Carolina public school system. Increasing class size, lower student achievement, and growing caseloads have been just a few. Picture this: Beth, who has just been released from Bryn Mawr for suicidal ideations. Emily, who has ADD and learning disabilities, and her skills are 3 years below grade level. And Michael, who has autism and sensory issues. This is just a glimpse of today's middle school average classroom. The current teacher-class ratio is 1 classroom of 31 students. The current teacher-class ratio is currently 1 to 24. Regular and special ed teachers are struggling to deliver quality instruction. Removing class limits on class size make it virtually impossible for one person to address the individual needs of every student and the unique needs of the students with disabilities on a daily basis. My daughter's education has been inconsistent due to the 6 special education teachers she has had over the past 2 years because of the high numbers and demands attributed to growing caseloads. Learning takes place when every student has been given equal access to the curriculum and the opportunity to experience success and share ideas. When this fails to happen, the entire class is cheated of the chance to gain necessary life skills. Both Senate Bills 374 and 516 of the North Carolina School Budget Flexibility Act and Public School Regulatory Reform state that dropping the class size limits will give districts the opportunity to maximize student achievement by deciding how best to use their state-funded teacher positions. The bill further requests that a commission be organized to study the services of EC, and one of the aspects being caseload and class size as it relates to students with disabilities. First, I ask that you do away with the very idea to remove the limits on class size and caseload and make it no longer a point of discussion unless it is to lower the numbers and revert back to the class-teacher ratio prior to 2012. Individual schools can use the waiver process if they need to exceed class limits in specialized cases. I also ask that you address the newly formed commission mandated by this bill, which is heavily laden with senators and representatives, and that you make it consistent with having members that have stake in this effort and can give insight and information, which would consist of 4 parents, 4 educators, maybe 1 school administrator, a disability advocate, 2 senators, and 2 representatives. To quote Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. I want my daughter and students like her to be equipped with the knowledge needed to further her education, be employed in a career of her choice, and live independently. Given the insight shared with you today, I hope you will consider the children of your constituents and do your part to ensure they are afforded every opportunity to receive quality education in North Carolina public schools. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Dooley, a proud resident of Louisville in Forsyth County. Thank you for taking time out of your weekend to hear the concerns of one of North Carolina's citizens who happens to have a disability. I come before you today to express my concerns about the current efforts to reform Medicaid here in the Old North State. Specifically, I am asking you to reconsider the 3% funding decrease for personal assistance services in the proposed Senate budget. Since birth, I have often had to rely on Medicaid to pay most of my medical bills, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, dental work, and assistive devices, including the chair I am riding in and the computer I am using to talk to you. One of the most important of all of these services is funding for my personal assistance. Medicaid is a costly business. We all know this. What is often missed, however, is that most of the discussion around Medicaid reform centers on those with mental health/substance abuse and intellectual/developmental disabilities, which reflect only 20% of the consumer cost. I depend on Medicaid personal assistant to help me with most activities of daily living, including dressing, preparing, and eating food, bathing, and being an active participant in my community. Without these essential services, I will not be able to continue to contribute to my community as I have in the past. I just graduated with high honors from Guilford College. While in college, I sat on several important committees, was involved in student government, and retired from the student newspaper as senior writer as well as the diversity coordinator. Without personal care assistance, this would not have been possible. If I have my way, I will continue to be a contributing, active member of my community, but I cannot do that without personal care assistance. The budgets that the House and Senate have proposed call for reduction in the amount of funding for these services. The Senate proposes to cut the budget for personal care assistance by 3%. The House calls for contracted study of pay rates, which are already low. These changes will make it even harder to find adequate support, which allows me to be an active participant in my community. In addition to me, at least 122,813 North Carolina citizens who are receiving or in need of these services will lose the ability to be contributing members of their community. They will be cast back into the shackles of a homebound existence. 3% may not seem like much, but it forces us to decide which part of our independent lives we will give up. For us, this is a monumental moment in our lives. I ask you to reconsider this one aspect of a very tight budget. Thank you all once again for coming to hear the concerns of one of your constituents on your valuable weekend. I cannot think of a better time to come than July 26th, the anniversary of the Americans with Disability Act. I ask you once again to continue funding personal assistance services at the current levels.
Thank you all, each and every one of you. Let's give everyone a big hand. It's all